Have you ever been left in a stupor when something unfamiliar flew overhead? When you were sure it was not a bird, not an airplane, but an unidentified flying object or a mystical creature? Millions of witnesses around the world have shared their strange sightings, and the most resourceful ones have captured them on camera. You are on the Top Facts channel, and we will turn to the stories of eyewitnesses to confirm once again the world is full of terrifying mysteries. Enjoy watching. A calm night by the sea can present the most bizarre spectacle. Even those who had not had cocktails at the beach bar saw two moons in the sky. Naturally, some immediately talked about the end of the world, but few could explain that there was nothing to worry about. There are significant reasons behind the double moon phenomenon. Sometimes in the desert, mirages can visibly double or triple objects. This is one. But sometimes real players come into play. Sometimes planets like Venus or Jupiter can be close to the moon, and when lit by the sun glow, the fragments we see then appear to us as a twin of the moon. So you can just enjoy this rare sight. Many city dwellers would like to rest in the clouds, to go to the mountains or see unrealistically beautiful landscapes. Some residents of this metropolis in China indeed managed to see a city mirage. Such an illusion sometimes appears in the sky after a storm with rain and hail. The clouds mimic the outlines of tall buildings, and in the eyes of the eyewitnesses, it looks like real cities in the clouds. This mirage, called Fata Morgana, is a result of light refraction, an erroneous reflection. An icy ridge in the sky stretches the object vertically, making it look like a castle wall or a cliff. Essentially, layers of air with ice crystals are like a giant mirror that works for the entire sky. Though ghostly, it is still beautiful. We now know that the city in the clouds is just a cloud mirage, but I don't think anyone can come up with an explanation for this story. Yes, ice crystals in the sky can create reflections of the tallest skyscrapers, but what about the people walking on the heavenly streets? Plus, there were lights flashing, like at a real intersection. Imagine seeing a parallel reality in the sky. I feel like that might drive me a little insane. Gradually descending, let us pay attention to the space above our roofs. Do you often look up? A mythical creature was caught on camera in 2014 in the United States and frightened many. For a few minutes, some kind of dragon flew over the houses and then disappeared behind neighboring roofs. The online world divided into supporters and opponents of this video's authenticity, but we clearly see something flapping its wings. What do you think? Could this have been the remnant of a prehistoric past bird, or a homemade costume by a local craftsman? What would you say if someone told you that ancient pterodactyls still appear in the sky? You would probably laugh. But what if you saw it yourself? Not just a big bird, but something very large, resembling the body of a dinosaur with dragon wings. We all know that pterosaurs are extinct, and we also know that this video was shot not so long ago in Pennsylvania and made scientists double-check the data from recent years' research. The flying silhouette, although blurry, clearly shows features of a prehistoric animal. Even the flying style is not as smooth as that of the giant eagle or heron. Convinced yet? Another story of a flying dragon. When there are several of them, doubts begin to leave us with each story. We are convinced that we can't explain what creatures get caught on camera. Something paranormal is definitely happening in the sky. The cameraman seemed interested in the storm clouds, but suddenly something more exciting got into the frame. At first, it looks like a giant bird, then like an electric ray, and in the end, like a dragon with abnormally large wings and a long tail. Personally, this story is enough for me to call it a successful testimony of the existence of prehistoric flying objects. One stormy evening, the sky over Singapore was taken over by thunderclouds. They burst with terrifying lightning and thunder, but that was not all the show that they brought with them. The final preparation amazed the onlookers. After the storm, a black shadow hung in the sky, resembling a serpent-like dragon. We would take it as a bad omen, But in the East, the dragon is very revered, and its appearance promises wealth and good luck. Always try to think positively and don't take what you see in the sky too close to heart. Unless, of course, it's a spaceship with green little men waving their three-fingered long hands energetically at you. On his way home, a man looked at the sky and shuddered. There was something ominous, resembling a giant creature with wings spread menacingly. He stopped and filmed the video to prove it wasn't a fantasy. Scientists explain this as a periodic illusion. It sounds fancy, but when a cloud looks like a sheep or a mushroom, this particular feature is the psyche at work. The magical option of our mind picking patterns at random. Probably the man recently watched a Dracula movie, and this pattern remained fresh in his imagination. Although if we asked 10 people, probably 9 of them would say it looks like a dragon, and maybe only 1 will doubt. Maybe that one is you? An inexplicable formation in the sky puzzled everyone who looked up. It looks like a web with a loop or a ghost of a kite. The black entity slowly unfurled in the clear sky and seemed not to move anywhere. If it was a piece of fishing or a mosquito net, why was it not blown away in the wind? If it was a stream of smoke, why did the shape not change? Its mere presence was enough to puzzle the onlookers for a long time. Probably many of them perceived it as a bad omen of the day. A mysterious black ring in the sky was seen in different places. Some decided that the end of the world was coming, and the others cursed the nearest factories. But the cloud was in no hurry to dissolve, like smoke, or do anything evil. A dense ring, similar to acrid smoke, moved without mixing with the air. It felt as if someone in the underworld was smoking a hellish pipe and blew the rings upwards. Now, let's move on to the characters. How can a body resembling a human move vertically through the air without any movement? A mysterious object, challenging all the laws of gravity and even levitation, it flew across the sky over Glasgow. We don't want to start a discussion, but the similarity of this figure to a black monk is quite obvious. The long robe, even a hood. Did it seem the same to you? Believe me, everyone who observed the object firsthand and the commentators on the video online put forth the same assumptions. This strange figure definitely did not look like aviation equipment, and it hardly looked like an alien. Another similar case. On a nighttime road, unpleasant surprises often await. A group of friends were on their way home when they encountered a strange creature hanging above. They probably didn't think it was a piece of cosmic thermal blanket. The first thing that came to their minds was that this was an otherworldly figure catching the souls of late-night travelers. Deciding it was a witch, however, their fear did not prevent them from filming the horror story on video and showing it to us. What do you think? If it were a witch, would she have avenged them? Those who have not watched Harry Potter probably don't know what Dementors are and what they look like, but you can see them right now. What emerges from the clouds looks exactly like the embodiment of evil forces. It even causes a lightning discharge. As credible as it looks, I remind you that these are not scenes from a movie, but videos filmed by ordinary people on cameras. Even with known distortions, we can't deny that this is a mirage. Maybe it's around time to rewatch the movie. If a crow were electrocuted, it might look the same, but it is unlikely that it would remain floating in the air. People were also frozen skeptically, watching the strange phenomenon in the air. There hung either a loofah or a fallen angel, or the photographer was so terrified that he couldn't even take a normal video. If you look closely around while driving through city streets, you would also notice this. On a branch sat not a crow, but a figure with 4 paws and 2 sharp wings. This creature definitely did not belong to the typical urban inhabitants. Too small for a human, too large for a bird. And there it is again, but thank God we did not distinguish the face. The sunlight interfered, but perhaps that was for the best. Otherwise, we would have been quite convinced that demons exist. There's a word, entity. used to describe something that cannot be classified as human or animal, but emits some kind of energy. Villagers in Brazil shared this video, hoping to get some answers, but ended up with even more questions. No one could understand what was sitting on the fence, a head with horns on a bird-like creature caught in a net. If something like that appeared in my yard, I'm definitely calling off of work. This video also puzzled many people on the internet. No matter how you look at it, what do we see? Some medieval creature desperately climbing up and down the wall. Perhaps this is where the saying "drunk to the point of seeing demons" applies. But now it's time for a smile. Our brain tends to dramatize everything. Turn the device and we'll see that the video shows a duck peacefully swimming in the water. A simple camera trick. Ha, see? Everything isn't so terrible. If you want to witness an anomalous phenomenon, there's no need to study other planets. Sometimes it's enough to look at the sky, and it will amaze. A strange semi-transparent object was spotted by a group of people, and although they tried to capture it on a stable video, it constantly moved as if trying to escape. The outlines also changed. It was impossible to evaluate the structure, but everyone had the same feeling. People could not shake the sensation that they were observing an object of extraterrestrial origin. This short video was enough to make dozens of people believers. The footage was taken by an unsuspecting person who noticed a winged creature majestically flying in the evening sky. Besides the large wings, the unclear silhouette, witnesses felt some divine presence. But the phenomenon was short-lived. The winged creature disappeared behind thick clouds. Believe in angels if you want, or believe in video editors. Now a duet performs. Residents in a remote town observed the flight of two strange creatures in broad daylight. They looked like angels dancing in a peculiar manner. The spectacle was as poetic as it was mystical. The nature of these movements were a little bit different than those of birds, and besides, there was clearly some semblance of a body between the wings. This entity in the sky looks like a humanoid traveler. It was noticed by an ordinary family who went for a walk in Colombia, but they didn't get too far when they came across this strange floating object in the sky and started filming it. When the zoom is increased, we see a distinctly humanoid figure with arms and legs freely hovering in the sky without a parachute. It was definitely not a piece of an airplane or a balloon, but a figure in something like a spacesuit. However, it seems hard to convince oneself of what is clearly visible, but hard to believe. Sofas are supposed to stay at home, not fly in the sky. But once in Turkey, a sofa decided to break the rules and was seen flying freely. This happened due to a powerful hurricane that hit the city. It's unknown where the soft furniture came from, but it did not make a hard landing, and luckily no one was hurt, except for the sofa's owner. It's unlikely that he could have held on to it. Do you believe that a palace can be built in one night? Maybe in fairy tales, but when a tree grows inside a car, no one can explain it. How do objects end up in the sky, land, and take root in this manner? All these people curiously examine the site with a giant tree growing from inside a car. Sometimes trees grow even on the tops of other trees, and all they need is peace and time. But for a tree to grow to this size, it would need probably 40 to 50 years, and the car looks much newer. If the tree didn't appear there yesterday, then the marks of time on the car should also be noticeable, but it's as clean as it is new. If we assume that due to some incredible teleportation or a tornado, the car ended up on top of the tree, then this wouldn't be a tree but a sharp pole with a crown. Write to us in the comments about what you think. Sometimes nature presents us with puzzles at sunset. Unsuspecting locals were admiring the sky when they suddenly noticed something unnatural in the behavior of the clouds. People are generally inclined to take what happens in nature personally, and instead of enjoying the beautiful hues, they began to suspect that something was wrong. Why was there such a gap in the sky? And what were those rays? And what would happen next? Don't worry, it's just an illusion. The clouds and the setting sun decided to play a little trick on us. You will feel much more uneasy if you see such a phenomenon in the sky. You might feel the need to repent for your sins. A crucifix floating in the sky will make even the most hardened atheist shudder, or it will make the most devout believers rejoice. Either way, we see how brightly this special effect shines with a television antenna conveniently in view. Somewhat eerie, isn't it? We know that clouds in the sky are arranged in layers and sometimes form vertical figures, but this cloud shines much brighter than usual. It is illuminating by the perfect sunlight. And again, our imagination fills in details, giving us this special meaning. We could admire the beautiful mountains in Japan, and an interesting phenomenon unfolded in the sky. Here, it looked like a UFO, and it seemed like a spaceship was disguising itself as a cloud. In fact, Mother Nature often plays tricks on us. This cloud in a halo of reflected sunlight shows its resemblance to an oyster shell or a flying saucer. Here we observe the free fall of an object whose purpose and origin we will not be able to decipher while watching this short video. But one thing is clear, it is an artificially created object, with a light clearly visible inside. It rotates and falls from above. Maybe it's some kind of ammunition weapon. If we observe phenomenon involving large unidentified objects, why can't there be smaller ones, like spare parts? We know so little about the world and the universe that it's foolish to limit all possible versions of our modest knowledge. Everyone is used to the contrails that planes leave in the sky, and even the remnants of comets and meteors occasionally penetrate the atmosphere, trailing with a smoky tail. But what we see in this footage doesn't resemble earthly flying devices, and if it is a piece of large asteroid or UFO, then the matter takes a fantastic turn. A helicopter tries to chase the object, but the speeds are clearly mismatched. The object also doesn't look like a drone. What do you think it might be? If an object is unidentified and it flies, we call it a UFO. But if we're sure it's not a drone, parachute, or a known vehicle, then we can only assume that it's looking at something that is of extraterrestrial origin. The mysterious flat shape and curious style of movement of this object gives us reason to suspect that it has connections with aliens. The thought that humans are not alone in the universe has crossed the mind of each of us. For many, what is captured in this video can serve as an answer to the question. A group of friends went out for a walk, and suddenly, their attention was drawn to this object. It looked like an alien ship. It is strange to assume that airships from the early 20th century are back in the air, but the speed of this object disproves that theory. I must admit that this is the clearest evidence I have ever seen. It could be a trick, but one can only guess. Residents of Holland captured something completely mesmerizing. A strange long object with some kind of appendages floating in the foggy sky. Since there were no explanations in the news or on the internet, people were forced to interpret themselves. A flying object cannot hover motionless. A cloud does not have such a distinct shape, and other popular explanations have yet to be found, except to attribute this to miracles or aliens. The night sky in Brazil was illuminated by a strange device. People noticed it brightly glowing and a giant trailhead of light behind it. Due to a lack of knowledge about cosmic processes, they wondered if it could have been a meteor shower. However, when information from the eyewitnesses began to accumulate, it turned out that a similar object was seen in another area, and it also hung motionless above. It looks like someone was exploring Brazil from the sky. Purple lights in the twilight sky. This is not a reflection of a chandelier in a window, and not a fake. Now, you might be able to see yourself. This thing really hung in the air, and the lighting is so bright that it's a bit irritating. There's no tower or mast next to them. They are by themselves. After these shots, I personally have come to terms with the idea that aliens exist and they are in front of us. What this observer captured leaves no doubt that we are witnessing something extraordinary. Not clouds, not some glitch, but the most shocking reality. A biker went out for a ride with his children, but the sky was gloomy, and right above them hung something terrifying. powerful stationary lights emitting electrical discharges. They heard the crackle of electricity and did not know what to think. Maybe an alien invasion. If the light came from part of the clouds as a reflection of a distant storm, then it would flicker like heat lightning, not to shine continuously. In general, the stunned eyewitnesses gave us a chance to stand in silent amazement as well. Convincing to say the least. So, these were the most incredible scenes captured in the sky. If you liked this episode and want to see something similar or maybe the next part, then like, comment, and subscribe to the Top Facts channel. And right now, you can check out these previous videos.